The gig economy is booming. Everybody's got a side hustle these days, but for some of us, it's more than just a way to make a little extra money. It's survival. Today, we're talking about what it's like to come home and build a new life after prison, one delivery at a time, one ride at a time, one gig at a time. We'll break down the facts, talk real experiences, and keep it 100 about the struggles and possibilities of life in this gig economy when you're just trying to stay on your feet. It's the conviction fiction. But before we get into it, here's a stat to chew on. A recent survey found that 48% of gig workers reported technology challenges as a major barrier to earning consistent income. That means almost half of the people trying to make the gig economy work for them are held back by access to technology or digital skills. This is something we talked about on one of our previous shows in the Starting Over series. The gig economy offers opportunity, but only if you can clear the hurdles. And that's the reality for many trying to rewrite their story after incarceration. So, this is the conviction fiction, and time to get into it. Let's go, guys. All right. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Let's get a reality check. Finding a traditional job after incarceration isn't just tough, it's a huge uphill battle. According to a 2023 study, this was about 70% of the formerly incarcerated. They said that they face serious barriers when trying to secure traditional employment. We're talking about background checks that can instantly disqualify you, stigma that follows you around like a shadow, and those huge resume gaps that employers see as a red flag. Now, the deck starts to feel stacked from the beginning. So, what do you do when the main doors stay firmly closed? Well, you start looking for the windows. You look for the cracks, any opening where you might be able to slip through. For many folks coming home, that window is the gig economy. Now, platforms like Uber and DoorDash or Instacart, TaskRabbit, they all have become lifelines, not just for the people that work for them, but for the people that use those services. They offer for those contractors quick money, flexible hours, and in many cases, no face-to-face interviews that can dig into your past. You can pretty much get going as fast as you can. And that matters when you're trying to pay bills over a period of time or cover fines or even just put food on the table. And here's something to think about. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that over 36% of Americans were involved in some form of gig work in 2024. This isn't just college kids anymore or retirees. This number includes returning citizens who are hustling to build something real. But, and this is the catch, the gig economy isn't an automatic fix. To really tap into it, you're first going to need some reliable transportation. That might mean a car, a bike, or a scooter. You may need a smartphone or a computer for some job. And with those computers and smartphones, you need consistent internet access because these platforms run on apps, notifications, and digital check-ins. And with that being said, now that you think about it, you're also going to need some tech know-how, like how to set up an account, how to manage your ratings, or deal with an algorithm change that can affect the visibility and pay that you receive. So if you're fresh out, juggling court fees, parole requirements, and maybe even housing, that startup costs, the phone, the gas, the computer, maybe the car, all of that can feel like a mountain that you have to climb. Now, climbing that mountain, you need tools because coming home is hard enough. So now you've got to now master apps. You've got to master ratings and algorithms just to get by. That's the tough task. However, you can actually get over those hurdles. And I'm going to talk about how do you actually get started. We're going to talk about how to get started. So we're also going to get into what does the grind look like in real time when you're coming home and trying to make it. Let's break it down first, right? Platforms like, DoorDash, Lyft, and Instacart, they offer the kind of work that doesn't sometimes require resumes or interviews or big explanations about your past. And that's a huge deal for anyone who's ever had a job offer vanish the moment someone ran a background check on them. For a lot of us, these platforms are not just income, they're dignity, they're independence and momentum, right? And we all need a little bit of momentum when you are a returning citizen. But let's not stop at food delivery and ride sharing, right? So you might can't get a car, right? You might can't get gas money, but if you got a skill, okay, say you're good with your hands or computers, writing or art, there's a whole digital world waiting for you. Platforms like TaskRabbit, Fiverr, and Upwork give you the opportunity to turn what you know into what you earn. Need to make a flyer? Offer graphic design. Are you good with words? Well, start writing bios or resumes or even online articles. You can even tutor online. So the key is seeing yourself not just as someone who's doing gig work, but as a business, a brand. Your company is your name. Your profile is your storefront. Now, the way you communicate, respond to clients, and deliver on promises, that's your marketing. So that's why it's very important that we have this conversation, because here's something they don't always teach us in reentry, or in reentry programs. They don't teach us that digital literacy is everything. You need to know how to set up your accounts. You need to understand how to track your earnings, how to keep good ratings and manage your time. You also need a reliable smartphone, solid Wi-Fi, and a basic understanding of how these platforms work. And let's be honest, YouTube can teach you more than a classroom sometimes. If you're willing to learn, the information is out there. Now, this path isn't for everyone, but for those who can lean into the hustle and adapt, it can be the first step towards real ownership, not just of your work, but of your future. And I'm going to explain that a little bit later in the podcast. Um, Sometimes we just have to get out of the mode that is not just side money, but it's a stepping stone to something bigger. Okay. Because when we, you know how we do on this podcast, we try to keep it all the way real. The gig economy gives you that flexibility. You get to pick your hours, choose the gig you want, and nobody's breathing down your neck. But here's the flip side to all that freedom. And it hits especially hard if you're trying to rebuild after incarceration. The hard truth is that when you sign up for these platforms, you're not considered an employee. You're labeled an independent contractor. It sounds legit, maybe even empowering. I'm an independent contractor. But what it really means is that you're on your own. You don't get health insurance. You don't get paid time off or any type of retirement plan. If you get into an accident while delivering, or your car breaks down, or you catch the flu, it can't work. Guess what? There's no safety net, no workers' compensation, no sick days, no unemployment. And then there's misclassification where um, some of these companies use that independent contractor status to avoid legal responsibilities. They don't have to pay into unemployment or disability insurance. If you wreck your car, you're responsible for that accident. That's your car. They don't have to follow labor laws around breaks and wages or overtime. They shift all the risk onto the worker. That means you. if this is the life that you choose to make your money off of. So I always like to throw in statistics when we're having these kind of conversations because it's just not me giving some opinionated version of what I view the world, but here's what the 2023 report from the Economic Policy Institute stated is that more than 1 in 5 gig workers say they've had to work while they were sick or injured because they couldn't afford to take the time off. So if you are sick and feeling bad because you don't have workers' comp, because you don't have health insurance, you continue to go to work because if you miss that day, you're missing out on putting bread on the table. That number actually jumps higher among low income and formerly incarcerated workers. Um, it makes it really tough because if you're already coming home from incarceration, chances are you don't have a cushion to fall back on. Some of you guys do. I did not. I didn't have any savings. I didn't have any credit. Um, I didn't have well, I had a ton of family support, but you get into the pride factor. Sometimes that family support is not needed or unwanted. Let's use that as the word. Maybe that family support is unwanted, right? So when one bad rating on that gig platform, or you get deactivated, or your app access gets suspended, your entire source of income can disappear overnight. So for the people coming home who already have no safety net, this isn't just about convenience. It can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. It creates a whole new kind of instability, one where you feel like you're working, you're grinding, doing everything right, but you're still walking a fine line wherein that one rating could like have you out of work. One bad customer service experience could have you completely out of work. But to the bad side, there's always, well, that's some of the downside. But let's look at the upside and how to play this game smart. This is where I'm going to try to tell you how to be successful in the gig economy. I've done it occasionally. I've went out, I've done Instacart, I did Uber at one time. When you're coming home from prison, the world doesn't exactly roll out a welcome mat. Traditional jobs are hard to land. Applications, background checks, judgment. It can all feel like another sentence. So this is why this conversation is important, because the gig economy has become kind of a starting line for many. No long interviews, no suits, no awkward questions, just use your smartphone, have a little hustle about yourself, and a willingness to learn, and you are getting paid. Take Tony, for example. After serving 8 years, Tony was released with no savings, no job, and no idea where to start. We got to get Tony on the show soon. But he tried applying at a few fast food places and warehouses, but neither of the offers, but those offers was just sketchy, or his record got in the way. That's when someone told him about DoorDash. Now, within days, he had signed up, borrowed a car from his cousin, and started delivering. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't, oh, I make this amount of money, but it was income. It was freedom. And it gave him something to build on. Now, fast forward a year later, right? Tony grinded using DoorDash. Now he runs his own small courier business using what he learned from the gig work to launch something sustainable. That's the thing about the gig economy. If you treat it like a stepping stone, not just a hustle, it can lead to bigger things. Building a strong online presence, learning how to navigate digital platforms. All of these things are a learning environment for you if you just have the right mindset. And you can join gig worker communities. And these are ways to get ahead. Networking online through the social media or in real life at community meetups can open unexpected doors, right? You can meet other people that once you get out of the grind and maybe have an idea, they just need that partner or they need that one push in order to make that happen. And guess what? Now you're in business. There are also programs making a difference. Organizations like Honest Jobs, Refoundry, and others offer training, mentorship, and reentry support tailored for people trying to break into the workforce, including gig work. Even some gig platforms are starting to form partnerships with reentry initiatives, recognizing that formerly incarcerated people are some of the most hardworking people out there, and we are. So the message is clear. Yeah, the gig economy has its flaws, but with the right approach and support, it can be the bridge between where you've been trying to get ahead and now you are totally on your feet and independent. Okay. Now let's talk about some of the policies that are out there because there are some policies um, like California's Proposition 22. They matter because if you're just trying to rebuild your life, you need to know what the policies are. So, Proposition 22, better known as Prop 22, it passed in California in November of 2020 after one of the most expensive ballot measure campaigns in state history. It was backed by those big gig companies like your Ubers, your Lyfts, and DoorDash, who they poured over $200 million into convincing voters that gig workers should be classified as independent contractors, not employees. This was their way of getting out of it. So they had the state voted on it or held an election where they would vote on whether independent contractors could be uh, labeled as, or these gig workers could be labeled as workers for the company. Okay. Now, this matters because employee status comes with benefits. If you're an employee, you're supposed to have health insurance. If you're an employee, you should have sick leave or unemployment protections and much, much more. Now, if you're labeled as an independent contractor, then you get none of that. No paid time off, no workers' comp, and no legal safety net when things go wrong. Now, for someone returning home from incarceration, this kind of policy hits different because you're already navigating barriers. You're already trying to find housing, reconnect with family, and stay on top of role requirements. And now you're trying to make a living in a system that gives you the work, but none of the protection. Now, Prop 22 was pitched as a way to maintain flexibility. Basically, they said, well, okay, you don't have any insurance, you don't have any sick leave or time off, but you can work when you want. You can be your own boss. And for some people, that flexibility is real and valuable. You can work multiple gigs, right? You can do DoorDash in the morning, drive Uber at night. Um, and in the evening, you could, be on Upwork or, a Fiverr. But the truth is, a lot of gig workers don't feel like bosses. They feel like they're grinding nonstop with no control over rates or those algorithms or even deactivation. Someone calls up and or reports that you were rude to them. And it's like, well, we're gonna like deactivate your account, right? So you don't have any work. And when something unexpected happens, God forbid, a car accident or a medical issue, or even a platform glitch, there's no backup plan. There's no backup plan. The debate around Prop 22 hasn't stopped. Many labor groups and civil rights advocates, they have pushed back, filing lawsuits and calling for broader worker protections, especially for vulnerable populations like us, like those re-entering society after prison. So what we do with this information is that we get informed. That's what this podcast is about, to keep you informed, to raise our voices. Now, we support policies and platforms that prioritize people, not just profit, because reentry doesn't end when you get out of prison. It's an everyday fight, and it's already a tough, really tough mountain to climb. Um, the walls can feel high, the path may be steep, and the weight is definitely heavy. So it's not easy to come home, rebuild your life, and find footing in the world that often feels like it's set against you. That's why when we're talking about the gig economy, it's not perfect, it's far from it. There are some challenges, roadblocks, and pitfalls. But for many of us, that gig economy can be more than just a paycheck. It can be a ladder, a way up, a step forward, a building block to get moving when so many other doors are closed. So if you're out here grinding, delivering meals, driving rides, designing logos, or doing side hustles that don't always get the respect they deserve, know this: your efforts are not being done for granted. It's going to pay off for you in the end, right? The hustle, the effort, the resilience. You got to keep pushing, keep learning, and keep growing. Your work matters because your story matters. Now, if you know someone that just came home, I'm struggling to find that first step, send them this episode. Share it with your community, your family, your friends, because access to information, um, to real talk about what works and what doesn't, is how we break down the barrier. We need to have some type of outline or blueprint to build new pathways, not by waiting for permission, but by creating opportunities for ourselves and for each other. Share those stories. Now, if you found a strategy that helped you stay on track, if you have a story about the bumps in the road, a warning or a lesson that could save someone else time or heartache, reach out. That's what this platform, this podcast, that's what it's built around. Voices like yours. It's a space for truth, for hope, and real solutions. Now, the experience that I had with driving or doing the gig economy, it was fruitful. I mean, I got paid every day. Now, it wasn't like my main thing. I had to do multiple hustles in order to get internet access, in order to buy a computer, in order to buy a microphone, in order to get the podcast started, right? Or buy a camera, right? That's all extra money. I mean, nobody has money just disposable like that. And I mean, let's be real. I don't get sponsorships and all that kind of stuff. I'm out here hustling, right? In your perspective and your experience is just as valuable. They're necessary. I wish someone had told me, like, how could I get some cameras and lighting and all this kind of stuff to get this podcast going before I went out and grinded myself. But it's better when you earn it, but it's also a lot more rewarding if you can help someone else. So let's shift this narrative together. Let's show the world we're not just numbers or headlines. We're the builders, creators, and leaders, and people worth investing in. We're just more than our past, guys. I say that all the time. You know that we're more than our past. So if this episode resonated with you, please take a moment to like and subscribe and share. Every listen, every share, every review will help grow this movement and show more people who need to hear this message what could happen positively for those people that are re-entering society after being coming just as impacted. And if you're looking for even more, check out my new book. It's right there, No Turning Back. It's available now. It's packed with stories, lessons, and tools to help you on your journey or anyone else. Look at there. No Turning Back is right there. So whether you're just starting out or already on the path, this book is for you. Thank you for being a part of this community. Keep rising, keep believing, and keep moving forward, because we cannot do this alone. It will take all of us in order to change the narrative. That's the conviction fiction. Peace.